Hey, you know, there's some big differences between a PGA Tour Pro and, let's say, your average avid golfer like yourself, just trying to navigate through the noise of YouTube golf instruction videos. One of the main differences that really makes a difference on how good of a golfer you're going to be is the way that you move your hips. So right after this, let's get into a key aspect of one thing about the hip action that makes the guys on tour so good, and what it is that you might be missing in your golf swing. So stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I'm on a journey to hit it longer and straighter off the tee, but also longer and straighter all the way to the green so I can get my approach shot right next to the pin. If you are on the same journey and you'd like to get a little more distance and accuracy, please consider subscribing, liking this video, and leaving a comment at the end. And don't forget to visit my website, HitItLonger.com, where there's over 100 videos and articles that will help you improve your swing and lower your scores. All right, so Dustin Johnson, Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, even Brooks Koepka, 4 of the top players in the world right now. What do they all have in common that you may not be doing with your hips in the downswing? And they specifically are moving their center of their pelvis back away from the ball, almost like they're going into a sit or a squat move. A lot has been written, and there's been a lot of instruction on YouTube talking about whether or not you should start a downswing with this sit move. And you can really see Tiger doing this early in his downswing, is sitting the pelvis back. Now, there's no question that the average tour player, we've actually studied them. We actually know what they do with their hips. We have the fancy, like they make video games with, the fancy reflectors and the 3D camera systems that can track their entire pelvis in 3D space. And we know that the average tour player goes back away from the ball with their tush line around an inch or so, which is very, very different from the average, let's say, bogey golfer, who probably moves forward into the ball an average of about 4 or 5 inches. So you can almost predict someone's handicap. If I was just to watch you make one swing, I could almost predict your handicap by what your hips did relative to the tush line as you went through the ball. But is the sit the right answer? I can tell you from experience and working with some of my private clients that it takes a hell of a long time to work that maneuver into your downswing. The downswing is only 1/3 of a second, sometimes even 1/4 of a second. It's really hard to figure out when exactly you're going to do that. And the other issue I've had with trying to teach people how to do the sit is then they have to make a separate opening up move. So you have like these multiple conscious moves that you're trying to learn on the downswing. Makes it really, really impossible. Now, if you're a tour pro and you have nothing to do all day except to practice this in front of a mirror and hit hundreds of balls a day, well, maybe you can get there. Even then, some people will never get there. So there's got to be an easier way, right? Okay, well, let's talk about it. All right, so if you've been watching my channel for some time, you know that a chair, a folding chair, some kind of chair or a wall is probably my favorite training aid, and it's free. So I really like cost-effective training aids. But what we're going to do with this, first I'm going to show you the sit move that we're talking about. So let's say I were to take a 3/4 swing to here, and right now my rear end is snug on the chair with a little bit of pressure. And then in my transition move, as I step down onto the left foot, I would start to return the left butt cheek to the wall to give this kind of sneed, squatty look. But furthermore, watch, I'm going to do like a double butt cheek lift behind me of the chair. Watch this. and there's the position we're looking for. Now, again, that position can be learned. It's extremely awkward if you're somebody who pushes off away from the wall this way. It will take you a long time to learn how to do this with any kind of speed at all. You might get pretty good at it in a month or two, hitting maybe soft wedges 100 yards, but then go to the course, pull out your driver and swing hard, and you'll see that you're going to take a lot more repetitions to learn how to do it this way. Really, when the chips are on the line, you've got to have a big shot. So instead, I propose a different solution that will feel much more natural and athletic to you, rather than doing a double butt cheek sit this way. But instead, I'd love to see you shift your weight or your hips laterally on a very specific vector. That would be a vector, let's say if the target was 9 o'clock and the ball is 12 o'clock. So that would make this 9 o'clock and that would make this 8 o'clock. Now notice all of a sudden, when I turn the shaft of this club to 8 o'clock, that all of a sudden it starts to intersect the left post of the chair. Now, if I were to take my left hip bone and I were to drive it straight down that 8 o'clock line, let's say between 6 and 8 inches or so, number one, I'm going to get the same squat look. If I were to do this, here's that same 3/4 backswing. Now I'm just going to drive my left hip to 8 o'clock. See, I've lifted the chair, which means overall the center of my pelvis has backed up. But in this case now, it's a very simple thought just to say left hip drives to 8 o'clock. Much more simple idea. Drive the hip to 8 o'clock. What I like about this compared to just doing a sit move to start the downswing, as so many instructors are trying to get you into nowadays, what I like about this better is that it combines keeping the rear end back with shifting the weight and turning the chest around. So you get one move that has a very easy trigger rather than sit and then try to shift and turn. That's at least two moves. Really hard to think of two things on the way down. It's just too quick. This will feel very natural to you, relatively speaking, and I think you'll be able to pull this off correctly right away and start to see the results. So let me hit a couple from this angle, then I'll swap the camera around and we'll look at it from a couple of other angles as well. All right, so this is going to be left hip to 8, lift the chair and hold it off the ground. Again, I'm hitting a 9-iron here real gently. Let's try one more, and we'll look at it in slow motion as well. So firmly against the chair with enough pressure to where I almost feel like I'm lifting it already. The key here is I'm going to sustain the lift off the ground before or until the ball hits the ground. So it's going to be a good 5 seconds. Boy, what I really like about that drill is when I step down into the downswing onto my left foot, I feel the weight automatically going into the right quadrant, which is the outside of the heel, this way. People whose hips push more towards the ball, well, they step into the instep of their left foot. And you simply cannot drive as much vertical force into the ground unless you're doing it straight down through your ankle into your heel. And so this will make you turn faster, pick up more speed. This is where the weight goes on every tour player you'll ever measure. Their weight is going immediately into the outside of the heel. Look at somebody like a Jordan Spieth, whose toe is almost a little bit off the ground this way at the moment of impact. So filming up the line is probably my favorite angle to watch a golf swing from. You rarely get to see this angle, and it really reveals a whole new side, shows you a lot of missing pieces that you wouldn't ordinarily see. From this angle, you're going to really get a clear look at the direction or the vector that I'm driving my hip down. There absolutely should be a fairly large lateral shift in your swing. However, it just should not be at the target or right of the target. That would get us in a lot of trouble, but instead, if we can make it vector left of the target, it'll really go a long way towards opening the body up, and that's going to allow us to hit it for more power and accuracy. So let's take a look at a couple from this angle. I'm going to try to lift the chair and sustain the lift till the ball lands. Okay, I think I did a good job of just hugging in that time, but I'm going to try to really show a little more of a dedicated lift up of the chair this time and really exaggerate it. So before I switch back to the down the line angle that we started with, let's look at how you would practice that at home without any distractions. See, the ball is a big distraction, the club is a small distraction. Let's set that down. You can do this on a wall at home. First, you would practice with the butt against the wall. Try to increase the pressure. Slide down the wall as you increase the pressure into the wall with your left butt cheek, trying to push the wall over behind you, just like that. Do a small wind up. I like to pretend I'm just holding like a cantaloupe or something. Shift to 8 o'clock. Intersect the wall, lift it. If you're using a chair, it should be off the ground. This will also help you make the club exit around to the left. The club's handle needs to be arcing around to the left in the exit if we're ever going to hit the ball consistently straight. Now here's a more advanced alternative to this drill. Instead, you can do the go find it. So instead of starting on the wall, I'll walk forward an inch off the wall, and I'm still going to lift the wall as I journey now a little bit left of 8 o'clock. This would help you get more of an exaggerated feeling on what you're supposed to be doing to counter your action if you're moving into the ball. So again, it's an inch off and go find it and lift it. Go find it, lift it. Go find it and lift it. So I'm still lifting the chair off the ground. You almost saw my hip flexion actually increase there, but I've got one simple goal, and that's just to drive the left hip bone down this imaginary line into left field. Okay, so let's look at that drill, that exercise from the down the line angle. Again, I set the club down for a moment. Just move the body to avoid the distraction that the club and the ball pose. Here's the on the wall version. I'm holding this imaginary ball here, staying on the wall on the backswing, pivoting the right hip butt cheek into it. Left is off now, orbiting down and around. Now we're going to go left hip bone, 8 o'clock, lift, and lift, drive the hip bone down the 8 o'clock line. Now here's the go find it drill from this angle, 1 inch gap, and go find the wall anyway. The first time you do this exercise, if you're an early extender and you tend to stand up, the one really remarkable thing you're going to feel is how much turning the body is doing as you're going into the ball, where early extension tends to have real big issues with not turning enough, and all kinds of bad shots will be created from that position. So once you get staying in your posture and turning around the corner, I'll tell you, this exercise can cure a lot of ills in the golf swing. A lot of times when you're spraying the ball, this would be a good first place to look, is somewhere in your hip action or your pivot. It's the first place I'll generally tell you to look. Hey, I hope you'll give this drill a try at home. Come back and leave me a comment. Let me know how it went. Hopefully it helps. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again to Golf Development Complex in Moorpark, California for hosting us today. And hey, if I don't see you in the next video, I hope I see you longer and straighter down the fairway.